Now, ladies and gentlemen, I feel privileged to invite Shri Puneet Yadav, sir, Joint Secretary at ARPG. Shri Puneet, sir, brings a wealth of experience in public administration, working tirelessly to drive reform and enhance citizen-centric governance practice. Puneet's dedication to serve the public interest is truly admirable. He will share with us harnessing data for governance excellence.
Thank you. Respected dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you.
Forward.
Yes, ma'am. To set the context of this presentation, let me present this map to you, which speaks of the landscape of mandatory e-service delivery in India. It spans a period of 4 to 5 years, beginning with our NESTA 2019 report, which mandated e-services across the states, and how this topography evolved in the next 4 to 5 years. As you can see, there is a rise in saturation of e-services from 48% in NESTA 2019 to 69% in NESTA 2021 to 76% in NESTA 2023, which is an ongoing work. So what are these mandatory e-services, and what is the saturation we are talking of? Basically, 56 e-services were identified as mandatory for the state governments to be implemented and delivered to the public. As you can see, so far the discussions were on the data side of the issue. We present a solution from the service delivery aspect, how the data is utilized to convert into intelligent services and solutions for the citizens of this country. To begin with, if you see the heat map, some states were leading in e-governance sector, some states were slightly lagging behind, and there was a wide disparity in how the e-services were being delivered to the citizens. Over the years, if you see, a lot of states have reached the mandatory 100% saturation level. And there's an overall improvement across all the states. Now, DRPG has been an integral part of the service delivery. Our role has been to benchmark the e-services, create a positive spirit of cooperation amongst the states, and organize national e-governance awards in which the best services and the best practices of e-governance are rewarded. We also work towards sharing of the best practices across the states and union territories and the ministries of Government of India through regional conferences, workshops, webinars, along with a close interaction with the NIC team of the states. So what is this NESTA framework which I am talking of, which was launched in the year 2019? Basically, it is a vast framework in which e-services of the states and UTs and ministries of the departments of Government of India are assessed and benchmarked on pre-identified parameters. This is a very elaborate matrix of more than 50 to 60 questions in which all the portals of the state governments and leading services portal of the ministries of Government of India are assessed. This is a biennial exercise. So as you can see, it was held in 2019, then it was in 2021, and 23 is a work in progress. But while we were working like this, it was felt that this work should not be spread at a span of gap of 2 years, and there's a need to work continuously on this aspect, which is where we launched NESTA Way Forward in February 2023, through which we can constantly interact with the states and UTs on month-to-month, week-to-week basis, so as to build their intelligent e-governance portals and solutions. This framework, which we are talking of, is a very holistic framework, and the assessment is done through very elaborate questionnaires. Each questionnaire will have around 50 to 60 questions, which will cover very in-depth aspects of how a portal can be organized, how the services can be delivered to the citizens in a very user-friendly manner. So key aspects of this is accessibility, content availability, ease of use, information security, and privacy. I think from the data aspect, you were discussing all of this. Now we are talking of using these parameters for creating a very safe solution to the citizen. On these parameters, we judge all the state portals and the UT portals. Along with these 4 parameters, when we are talking of the service delivery, then additional parameters are incorporated, which include end service delivery, integrated service delivery, and the status request tracking. So if you are a citizen, you would like to know what is the status of my request. It may appear to be surprising, but when a solution is developed, it does not have very strong performance on each of these parameters. These parameters are developed through successive iterations, regular follow-up, so that these parameters are built up. These are the 56 mandatory services which we started with. These services, as you can see, cover 7 very important focus sectors, including social welfare, finance, public utilities, education sectors, labor and employment sector, environmental sector, and tourism. Now, if you are a citizen, these will cover something from very basic, such as a birth registration, to registration for the school, and age certificate. These are the services which, as citizens, we require very frequently, and we need to get them at a very high space. So which is where these services are also aligned for the central government ministries. Now, if you see for the Ministry of Finance, we all file our income tax ITS returns, e-payment for custom duties. Now, these services are also incorporated and covered under the same 7 parameters. For the Ministry of Labor and Employment, you can see that EPFO-related services, EPF-related services, and for the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, grants under to the NGOs, Ministry of Agriculture, Soil Health Card, and similarly, very important services are being delivered. Conforming to these 7 security parameters, it ensures that the IT solutions are built on very strong foundation. And from the user perspective, when you are transacting to get any of these services, you are assured that your payment, your tax payment, is all reaching the right authority. There is no misplacement, there is no duplicacy of payment, and which is where we are trying to develop these solutions. Talking of the outcomes, as we observed during this process, in 2019, when this process was started, the states and the UTs were delivering something around 872 services. Now, if you count 56 mandatory services across 36 states and UTs, the total should be something around 2016. As compared to that, we are only delivering 872 services in e-mode. Through regular persuasion and follow-up, the figure improved significantly in 2021 to 1,400. Basically, this means that a saturation of 69% from the level of 48% in 2019. We also do very regular citizen satisfaction survey in this, as part of this NESTA survey, and it was observed that 74% of the respondents were satisfied with the level of the service delivery. Another aspect of this solution was, if you are a citizen, you would like to have a unified single portal, an address where you can go and get all your services which you need from the government. Earlier, as one of the speakers was saying, these solutions were organized in a very disparate manner. They were independent silos which were not talking to each other, and the user had to go to one website to other to get the service delivery. There were multiple login IDs, multiple passwords, and it was very difficult to have a continuity in dealing with the government. Now, which is where a very important point which was focused in this solution was creation of centralized and unified integrated services portal. Through these surveys, we observed that due to thorough follow-up and significant support from the state governments and the UT governments and the active participation of the NIC officials of the states and the UTs, there was improvement in all the 7 parameters. across the two surveys, which is when it was thought that to take this result from a level of 69% to, let's say, 90% plus at the national level, we should have a regular interaction with the state governments, with the union territories, and with the Government of India ministries and departments, which is when we thought of creating this Nestra Way Forward team, which is a PMU, which can interact with the ministries and the departments on a regular basis, touch upon individual parameter and their scores on these parameters, so that there is a overall improvement in the scores. And ultimately, these scores will confirm not only to the citizen benefit, but also how our solutions are judged at the international level. As a part of mandate of this Nestra Way Forward, we also incorporated this promotion of faceless services. So if you are a citizen, you would like to have this service as a contact-free, totally contact-free. The next thing which we are trying to develop here is the suo motu service delivery. When the data is with you, when you join a service, you would know the system is able to calculate what should be your retirement age. So what we are trying to push here is creation of suo motu services. So when you retire, on the date of your retirement, the system should be able to process your retirement documents. You should be able to get your pension without pursuing it from pillar to post. So creation of this suo motu services is also an integral part of this thing, for which gradually we are working with the various state governments, and hopefully in the years to come we should be able to give very good solutions based on this. As I said, creation of unified services portal is also a very integral mandate of this, which I'll be briefly touching upon. And how these services is created is basically a peer learning, mutual learning. We have a very strong team of NIC officials across the states. We also have our IT partners. If a state is able to create an intelligent solution, and we already, as I said, we have this e-governance awards every year, the best practices can be identified and they can be replicated very fast, and we don't need to invest too much on replication of the same processes. As a part of this solution, we have our monthly reports coming from Nestra Way Forward. We also have this unified service parameters. We also interact with the RTS commissioners of the states, which we are utilizing actively to ensure that the state portals and the state service delivery is matured at the same level in all the states. We organize very frequent brainstorming sessions with the industry leaders. Further, we have a very regular contact with the single point of contact, which is the spokes of the ministries and the departments. And there is a very significant media outreach. The success stories are shared through PIBs, and this creates a very positive environment of competition and learning from each other. As I said, when we were talking, we began with something like information on 872 e-services, which were the basically mandatory e-services. Through these initiatives, you will be very pleased to know that we could motivate the state government, and so many good practices were occurring and which were replicated across the country, that beyond the horizon of 56 mandatory services, we observed that the states and UTs started delivering significantly larger number of services, which were specific to these respective states and which can easily be customized to meet the requirement of the other states. So what is the outcome of this? The outcome is this. Presently, we are delivering something like 16,000 e-services across the country, which is a quantum jump from a very humble beginning of something like 1,000 e-services. If you see, just from the launch of Nestra Way Forward, when something like 11,000 e-services were being identified, to December 23, this figure has reached 16,000 plus e-services. This means a quantum jump of 42%. On the right, if you can also see how the states are individually progressing. The state of the UT of Jammu Kashmir, which had a very small number of e-services, it is delivering the highest number of e-services at the end of the year. Similarly, if you see Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, all the states are learning from each other. If you also see the state of Assam in the northeast side, they have shown tremendous progress. So this is where the learning through this process is helping all of the states. This is something which I already mentioned, how the unified services portals are actually driving this service delivery. These unified service portals, if you see, 4 states have already reached that 100% of the services are delivered from a single portal. Whether we talk of e-Unnat of Jammu and Kashmir, similarly Kerala solution, Assam and Odisha 1, they are already delivering services 100%. We have another 8 to 10 states where more than 80% services are delivered from their single portal. Now what we are trying to impress upon the state, and as you understand, this will require breaking some of the silos, because data is there, information is there, service is also there, but we have to bring them to a unified place. These are the monthly reports which I was talking of, and the best practices which we normally share. Another very important aspect of this e-service delivery is the grievance redressal mechanism. Here it is important, once we get a grievance from a user, how fast it is resolved. We get something like 25 lakh grievances in a year related to the services of the states, of the districts, of the ministries, departments. Through the grievance redressal officers, they are systemically devolved to the respective authorities which are supposed to address this. And a timeline which used to be something like 60 days, more than 60 days to begin with, has come down to around 16 days through this solution. This is an IT-enabled AI/ML based solution in which keywords are identified, and based on this, they are sorted. You can also see, we can track individual complaint, including the individual grievance redressal officer and the appellate authorities, and if the complaint is moving in a single iteration or there are multiple loops, so that we can focus on the individual officers and get the service delivered faster. This solution has also integrated the Bhashini app, which actually translates complaints and the grievances in the 23 regional languages into English and Hindi, so that we also benefit from the data and the complaint in the regional languages are also addressed. The third aspect which I'll briefly touch upon is how to organize the government machinery and get them to deliver better in this emerging environment. So this is our e-service analytics app. As you see, earlier a file in the Government of India used to take something like 8 levels of decision making, which has come down to 4.55 in a span of 2 years. This is an agenda and an initiative driven by the topmost leadership in the country. Cabinet Secretary and Secretary DRPG are regularly monitoring things. And this actually converts the data into intelligent solutions and performance and end user benefit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.